Hi everybody, it's the Part-Time Prepper. Today I'm going to do a quick video on a comparison for different camp and emergency stoves. In the event of a power outage or emergency, being able to cook, purify water, things like that are very important. So I'm just giving you various types of stoves that I use, and then I'll highlight the costs and the pros and cons in each one. So real quick, starting off with my largest and your typical camp stove, it's the Coleman Perfect Flow. I've had this stove for over 12 years. It's a great stove. It's great for camping. Obviously, it's too big to take backpacking or when you're quick and you want lightweight. But if you're talking about cooking at home in an emergency, if the power is gone, or out just camping with a family, this is a great stove. It's called the Classic Coleman Perfect Flow stove now. They run for about $60. Now there's cheaper versions. Ozark Trails makes something similar for like maybe $40. This one has the two-side windscreens. It's a 2-burner, 20,000 BTU. Very durable, very easy to clean, and able to cook a lot of food quickly. It's powered by the 1-pound LP canisters that you can pick up at any camp store or Walmart. And you can also convert it to run to a larger 20-pound or 40-pound LP canister if you get an adapter hose. So, it's fairly expensive. It's very heavy. It is durable. It's great for cooking for several people. So that's this stove I use quite a bit when my family's out camping or in case of power outage. It's a great stove. As anything with LP, unless you're running it empty with the burn on and clearing out the gas in the line, if you turn off the stove and then disconnect the propane cylinder, there will be a little bit of gas that's out. So don't have open flame around it or smoke or anything. Just be mindful that if the canister is not depleted, just be careful. Make sure it's vented. When you turn off the stove, make sure there's no flame, and then disconnect the tank. There'll be a little bit of gas in the line and that escapes the cylinder for a second. So just keep that in mind when you're taking it apart. And that's with any kind of LP portable camping accessory. So, all right. So moving on to the next stove. The second emergency stove I have, this one is a tech sport, but obviously Coleman and other brands make the same thing. Basically, it's just a single burner, 10,000 BTU, sits directly on top of a propane tank, and it has a kind of like a base to support the weight. I've used this before as well. I don't use it as much as some of my other stoves. The pros are this one's much lighter than the Coleman Perfect Flow, obviously. It is fairly tall. As long as you're on stable, even ground, it's fairly safe. I mean, you're not going to put 30 pounds of cooking on there, obviously, but for boiling water, cooking something in a skillet, as long as you're close to it, it's fine. This one runs anywhere from $24 to $30 typically. Again, it's powered by a 1-pound propane cylinder. And also I want to mention this, just like the other Coleman Perfect Flow stove, you do need matches or a torch or something to light it. It does not have an ignition switch, so you actually need to supply a flame to get it going. Again, for backpacking, I've used camping by myself. It is fine. It's just if you're perking coffee, that's pretty tall. So you just kind of make sure you're kind of out of the wind, because there is really no kind of wind baffle at all. But it is stable as long as you're on good, solid, even ground. You don't want to be cooking off on a slant or anything, because this thing's about almost a foot tall put together. And like the Coleman, obviously, if you don't run out of gas while you're cooking, which you usually won't because these little canisters last quite a bit, you have to just keep in mind that when you disconnect the tank from the stove itself, that there will be some gas that escapes. So again, don't be smoking a cigarette or a cigar or have around open flame when you take this apart, because there will be an instant where there is some gas leakage. So again, not my most used emergency stove, but it's good to have. Redundancy never hurts in emergency preparedness. So again, anywhere from $20 to $30 depending on the brand, and it's a decent stove. With this one, you cannot adapt it to a larger tank, so really you're stuck with 1 pound canisters. So if you have the ability to refill them at home with an adapter, you can do that. If you can't find propane cylinders around you or in an emergency, obviously, then this isn't going to be a super great option for you for that. Okay, let's look at another stove I use. Okay, the third stove that I have for emergencies and for camping, and I use this one a fairly amount actually. This one's an Easy Life version, but it's also branded under Gas One. Coleman has a version. There's probably 20 different versions of this stove. They're all the same. I think they're all made by the same manufacturer. They're just branded differently. But this is a butane stove, and this is very popular in the Asian markets. You can pick this up under the Coleman brand at most Walmarts for about $19, or any Asian grocery store. I purchased this locally, well, nearby at least in the state, an Asian store not too far from me, for about $19. And then they also sell the fuel. Now, Walmart will sell the Coleman brand of butane for about $2.89 a canister. Usually at the Asian stores, you can pick it up for about $1.60 to $1.75 a canister. Each canister usually gives you a solid 45 minutes of cook time. And it's a great, I think a lot of caterers use these things to warm things and cook things up on site when they're doing catering. But it comes in a little travel case like this. The butane canister actually fits inside. I'm going to move around and show you real quick. It opens up and you put the canister in, and then there's a lever that locks it into place so it won't leak. So it's very safe. You can keep the canister in the stove if you want. So it is light. It's nice having a case. A lot of times if I'm traveling, and sometimes I get sick of fast food or stopping at the interstate and getting a burger or a Subway or something, so I'll pull over to a rest stop and I'll just bust this out and do some cooking. It'll hold a standard size pot, and it cooks fairly well. Now the one thing about butane is you cannot refill these canisters, and also under 40 degrees or so it will not work. It just will not have the energy to burn. So unlike propane, you can use that pretty much in any kind of environment. Butane, once it really starts getting cold, these just won't work. So you're not going to take this up in the mountains in 20-degree weather and do anything with it. It just won't work. So just keep that in mind. Now obviously this is still a fairly large size stove. So again, this is not so much a backpacking stove, but for home emergencies or traveling or camping, it's a pretty viable option. So I just have one of these, this one, and I actually use it a fair amount of time when I'm by myself. But again, not super lightweight, not easy to find the butane canisters. Not every Walmart stocks this stuff, and a lot of camp stores don't seem to stock it. But if you've got any Asian markets around you, you can get them online, but the freight usually kills you because of the hazmat fees. So may or may not be an option for you. Okay, now we're getting into really lightweight trail stoves. This one fits in that little orange case, and this weighs absolutely nothing. It's got a built-in igniter, so you basically screw it onto a canister of, this is a propane butane mix. This is a 4-season mix. If you had to have one emergency stove out and about, whether you're bugging out or in the trails, whatever, by yourself, this would be it. Now with this one, those canisters go a pretty long time, and there's two different sizes. This is like I think 230 grams, like an 8.9 ounce, and then they make like a 9 or 10 ounce. These canisters usually sell for about $480, $490 at Walmart or any kind of camp trail store. Now that is expensive for a little canister, and there's no way to refill it. But if you're talking, you need something lightweight on the go, this stove and the canister fits in one of my little camp cookwares. So basically you set it in the cookware, put it in a pouch, and it's in your bag. Very lightweight. Gets very hot very fast. Good for boiling water. This one, like the other stoves, you can adjust the flame. So you can boil water, you could cook a can of soup, you could cook whatever, so it's not just full bore. You can adjust the flames. Small campware sits on this. You're not going to get a huge pot on top of this thing. You're not going to use this to cook for 3 or 4 people. It is something that you can just put in your bag. You could fit the stove in that little container in your pocket itself. It folds up together, and I'll show you real quick. Sorry if the mic gets scratchy. And I'm just sitting it on here, but basically it just folds up like this, and then the flaps fold over. This controls your burn, and the whole thing basically fits in here, and it puts together. So it's very small. If I can get this plastic to bend cheap. I bought this stove shipped, and I've got a few of these actually. I mean, they're Chinese, so I don't know if you trust your life up in the Alps with it, but for $6 shipped, more or less, $6.50, $7 maybe now, because I bought these well over a year, maybe 2 years ago. They work great. I mean, it's a great emergency little light wave. If you're not far from home, or if you're just in the trails, you need to boil water, cook some soup, make some tea. You've got a small perk or something for coffee. This would do you pretty well. These are some of the stoves that I have in all my vehicles. So this is truly lightweight, fairly cheap. Now, there are some better tri-fuel brands that can use like gas, white gas, alcohol, a butane, propane mix, whatever. This, you're really stuck to, you need the specific canister with that specific fitting. It won't work with anything else. But for being fairly lightweight, cheap, stock up on some of these little canisters. It's good to have around. I use this a lot when I'm at hotels or traveling for work. This is always with me. Okay, next stove. This next stove is a alcohol camp stove, emergency stove. Basically, you pour alcohol down inside of it. Isopropyl you can use, which is really cheap. Denatured alcohol is really the best alcohol to burn because it burns cleaner with very little soot on your cookware. Again, I've got these small butane stove in the case right next to it to show you the size. Again, very small, very lightweight, just for alcohol. Again, I have a few of these stoves. This is also in each bug out bag I have. You can pick up alcohol anywhere to burn. Very lightweight. This one's made from stainless steel. I think I paid $12 or $13 shipped for this. When you're done, you just put the cap on. You can keep the alcohol in it so you don't have to pour it back out if you don't want to. Again, you want to make sure you're in a well ventilated area, not a lot of wind if you can help it, and on even ground. Even though this is lightweight, the springs kind of close it all up. When you put the lid on and close it up, it does hold your standard kind of campground or emergency cookware. So you could boil a cup of water, maybe even 2 cups fairly quick. Now with this, you can't control the temperature. So it really is only for boiling water to either make sure you're killing bacteria in the water, or you need to boil water to rehydrate some freeze-dried food or make tea or something like that. So it is limited on the versatility of it. It really, you can't control the burn. It's really for boiling water quickly. But it is something like this. Alcohol stoves are good things to have. Okay, this final stove I'm going to show you, again, I have one in each bug out bag in each car, is a Esbit style folding stove, portable stove, and it's a solid fuel tablet, although you could use that sterno fuel with these as well, that gel alcohol in containers. You can pick up a folding Esbit style stove for anywhere from $4 to $6, $7, including fuel tablets. I've got a hexamine fuel tablet in there right now. That'll burn for about 8 or 9 minutes. And to boil a cup of water, it usually takes 2 or 3 of those, about 2 minutes or so, 2 to 3 minutes to burn. Very lightweight, it folds. you can see where the pot would sit on it. Again, not super heavy pots are going to fit on this. You're only going to cook, or you're only going to boil water with this. And that's about it, but it's very lightweight. Replacement fuel tablets are sold. You can get a thing of 24 tablets for usually about $2. If you can find a store, a camp store or survival store. Otherwise, with shipping and things, you're probably going to spend about $2.75. I have a lot of these. They're great fire starters too. The negatives are they smell like dead shrimp when you're burning. There's no smoke or anything like that. I've used this to boil water inside before, but it does stink a little bit. You can blow out the tablets and reuse them later if you need to. But it is very lightweight. You can put this in your coat pocket. It'll fit in your bug out bag. I've got the alcohol fuel stove in that little black pouch and that little orange butane burner, just to give you an idea of size. So those three I would get no matter what. But anyways, this is what I use. These are the kind of emergency stoves I have. I hope you've found this video interesting. Please follow me on Twitter at Twitter Part-Time Prepper. And I'll also put links down below the video to where you can pick up similar stoves or the actual stoves themselves if you're interested in these for your own personal bug out bag or equipment storage.